been a tireless fighter for LGBT rights, for our youth, our children, our families, for many, many years. And it is my pleasure to bring up none other than Senator Mark Leno.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to thank our colleague, Supervisor Ross Mercarimi, for being here as well, our good friend and ally and champion of civil rights for everyone around the world. Ooh. It is important that we get together, and I think what binds us all, our point in common, aside from or beyond any sexual orientation or gender identity or civil rights commitment, is that we all at some point have shared that experience of being different and being picked on as a result of it, or being physically smaller than, or somehow standing out when we were young. And isn't it interesting that that horrible, challenging, hurtful, sometimes thought-provoking of suicide experience stays with us for a life, but certainly can give us a strength and an understanding of how others... I will, thank you. All right. I don't even know what he was saying. I, not unlike Tom in the Assembly, and I in the Senate, we each adjourned in memory of not only these 9 young people who took their lives very recently, but all of the hundreds who unfortunately on an ongoing basis are doing this. This is a strange occurrence where so many happen in one week, but beyond our attention, this is happening on a regular basis. And so I adjourn specifically in memory of Seth Walsh, 13-year-old boy from Tehachapi, California, who hung himself in his mother's backyard on a tree, and then was rushed to the hospital and lingered for about a week until he died the last few days of September. Loving family. His mother had beautiful things to say about him. He was 13. His 11-year-old brother also said what a great big brother he had, and that he wasn't a fighter and his brother wasn't a fighter, but his brother stood up for him. And I tried to get my colleagues in the Senate's attention after I mentioned that Seth had been bullied for years because of perceived sexual orientation when he was 8, 9, 10 years old, and he did the very bold and courageous thing that at age 12 he came out to his schoolmates, but that the bullying continued and led then to his tragic death. And I said, let's, colleagues, use this as an opportunity to stop and ask ourselves, am I contributing to this hateful atmosphere? Is there anything I might have said, referring to my colleagues, but speaking in the first person, is there anything that I might have said that could have led a young person to think that he or she was not of value? Was there anything I might have done, any act I could have committed, any vote that I might have cast that might have communicated to a young person that they were less than, or they were less deserving, or that they should think little of themselves? And there was a silence in the room. I hope I just got maybe them to think for a little bit that children do listen, and children are watching. And so when you cast a vote against marriage equality, you're making a statement that kids are hearing. And when you vote against, just a few years ago, hospital visitation rights, whatever the issue of the day is, they're against it. Looking back, it looks so ridiculous. You voted against hospital visitation rights? What were you thinking? So we get to raise some consciousness, but I'm going to end on a higher note here. This wonderful community spontaneous reaction to all of this, the beauty that comes from this, because we want to prevent this. We may not stop it in its tracks, but we can prevent this. And if we save one life, we've done something. And that we've had this genius idea from Dan Savage to communicate through the immediacy of the internet. It gets better. It gets better. It so gets better. And think back when you were 10 or 12 or 14, and if there had been such a thing as an internet, and if there had been a viral communication like It Gets Better, that you could have been anywhere in this country or around the world as isolated as you could be, frightened about who you were and the message you were getting from your family, from your teachers, from your church or synagogue, and there on the internet, a whole community was telling you, hang on, it gets better. And you knew that you weren't alone, and even more importantly, you knew people cared about you. Imagine that feeling, the strength of that feeling. So thank you, Dan Savage, and thank you, Matt Baum, who did that beautiful piece here in San Francisco. And we all should be doing it. I told it about this to my lesbian sister in San Diego, and she said, could I make a video and put it up? Yes, you can. We all can, and so we can spread this. It's an amazing thing. So thank you for being here. We've got strength in this community. We've got wisdom in this community. It's our task, our joy, our responsibility, our opportunity to share it with the next generation so they know that they are loved and embraced. Harvey would love to know that we can give them hope through videos and through communications and just for being out and for being who we are. He couldn't have asked any more of us. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for affirmation and for David and for Robert for bringing this to San Francisco Civic Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Another round of applause to affirmations. It takes all of us. Whether you're Catholic, whether you're Jewish, whether you're a Muslim, whether you are